Hey everybody. Well, we told you this was likely to happen last month, and now it's official. The White House is nominating Philip Washington to be the new FAA boss. Of course, he'll need to be confirmed by the Senate. Now, Washington right now is the Denver International Airport CEO. He's also run the Los Angeles and Denver transit agencies, and he's an Army veteran. He was a command sergeant major. Okay, and joining me now is our boss, Mark Baker, President and CEO of AOPA. So, Mark, what's your thought on Philip Washington?
Well, my thought is, first off, welcome to the aviation community, and we're looking forward to working with him as we'll get to know him as soon as he gets the role confirmed. I like the idea of having a permanent leader rather than having somebody in the acting role. It's very difficult for them to make decisions, very hard for long-term strategic direction to go. So I'm pleased that we were finally moving to a fully fledged, full-time leader in a very important role.
So after he's confirmed, I know that you'll be one of the first people who will be able to go meet with him. So what's going to be on your list of items that you want to present to him as our priorities?
Well, clearly, we want to get this low-lead fuel initiative and the EAGLE program supported, understood, and the commitment to keep our airports open, maintaining low-lead availability until we have the switchover date complete. It's something I'm really counting on the FAA to stand up for. And that'll be on the very top of our list for certain.
Okay. And, a lot of members always get concerned when it's not a pilot who's the FAA administrator. Now, the last few administrators have been pilots. Does that concern you?
Well, here's what I'd say is that one of the best guys I worked with over the last 9 years was Michael Huerta. He was not a pilot. Mm-hmm. Michael and I still maintain a good friendship. He was a good leader, and let's start with having a good leader. And he was very curious about aviation and very accessible to AOPA and myself at any time, anywhere. And that's what I think is really the most important piece. And we can teach him all about things about aviation that he needs to know. And I'm sure he'll be surrounded by people that know a lot as well. So it's not a critical factor. It certainly doesn't hurt to be a pilot, for sure. And the last couple of folks have been pilots. But Michael and I did a lot of good things together, and he was not a pilot. So as long as they're a good leader, and apparently Phil is a good leader, he's got a very successful career, we can work with that.
Well, and as a former Army Command Sergeant Major, we do know that he knows how to take names and kick rears.
I think he certainly understands accountability and being decisive. And that's one of the things that the leadership of the FAA needs. Any leader of any large 50,000 people organization needs to be a decisive leader, and I'm looking forward to working with him. Great.
Well, thank you, Mark. And Philip Washington is going to have his hands full the moment he walks through the doors at 800 Independence Avenue. Such things like aircraft certification in the wake of the Boeing 737 MAX fiasco, airline delays, the cancellation mess, air traffic control issues. Finger pointing is still going on there, by the way. United continues to blame the FAA. FAA says not their fault, but the airline trade organization, Airlines for America, sent a letter to the guy who will be Washington's boss, that's Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, and they indirectly blamed unscheduled operations as being part of the delay problem. Well, we know what they mean by unscheduled operations. It means they're pointing the finger at general aviation. So, a group of general aviation organizations, including us at AOPA, well, we sent our own letter to Secretary Pete, and the group wants to meet with him to, quote, address the challenges of this moment and ensure that our aviation system as a public asset overseen by the government and Congress best serves all Americans in cities and towns across the USA. So what we're indirectly saying is we're not to blame. And of course, there's a history there. The airlines have been blaming GA for decades about delays at major airports. That's one of the reasons why we had the development of the reliever airports. And you might remember back in the PATCO strike that GA was prohibited from using the IFR system. Back in the day, some controllers referred to us as FLIBs. You can look that up. But Mark is going to testify on the delay issue next week before Congress, and you can be sure he's going to make it clear that GA isn't the reason why Mom and Dad are sitting in an airport terminal someplace. Now, without a doubt, some of the nation's finest air traffic controllers work the arrivals and departures at AirVenture in Oshkosh. So here's something that's, really fun. It's a chance to practice flying into Oshkosh with real live controllers in your ear. Pilot Edge is running SimVenture Oshkosh 2022. Now, this is a live interactive event. You fly your simulator to Whitman Airport using the procedures in the notice and talking to live air traffic controllers.
You're clear to land at or beyond the blue dot on 18 right. Start your base turn now.
White Cessna, turn right for the downwind. You're flying to Brown Cessna, wing up right base. Greg Grumman, turn your base now. Turn your base now. Tight turn all the way around to the green dot.
Crank it, crank it, crank it. I need you to point at that orange dot. I need you to go right to the orange dot. Harder, harder, harder. Keep it airborne until you're on the green dot. Set it down on the green dot with a right turn into the grass.
The sim environment is extraordinarily realistic. You can even visit the AOPA tent near the Brown Arch. Well, that's virtually, of course. You can visit pilotedge.net to see what equipment you'll need to participate. The sim sessions will run from July 14th through the 17th. And by the way, every time you land or take off virtually from Oshkosh, you get a prize entry. And there's some pretty neat prizes there that you could win. Now, if you're flying to Oshkosh for real, you can check out our website for some things that you can do along the way. Now, when you get to Oshkosh this year, you're likely to see, a bunch of new things. Most of the manufacturers like to debut their newest offerings there at Oshkosh. So something new from France will be there. Elixir Aircraft says it's setting up a U.S. assembly base and service center, that to support what they call a fourth-generation aircraft. The two-seater is EASA CS-23 certified. Now, that's equivalent to FAA's Part 23 certification for small aircraft. And usually EASA certification is recognized in the U.S. Now, this airplane is a one-shot carbon fiber construction. What that really means is that there are a lot fewer rivets and seams that have to be glued or connected. For example, the wing is made without ribs or spars. Rotax power and a bit under $300,000. And if you want to go a little faster, Sonic says it's making major progress on its two-seat variant of the Subsonic's personal jet. They've started taking deposits for the kit, and the prototype will be on display at AirVenture. Now, they expect to ship the first kits late next year, and they estimate it'll cost you something north of $150,000 to build one. Of course, we all dream of having a perfect airplane, one that flies just right, looks cool, and has every feature we can want. Few of us get so lucky, but one pilot in Pennsylvania certainly did. Professor H. Paul Schuck, or Dr. SETI as many know him, he's a noted radio astronomer. Well, in his retirement, he started a flight school, AvSport of Lock Haven, and he specializes in light sport and serves as a DPE. And when he's not giving dual or check rides, he's in this hot rod. It's one of just two Bristol TDOs in North America. The beautiful example was once a sales demonstrator. Paul jumped at the chance to have it.
When I bought the plane, I didn't have a lot of tail dragger experience. I had maybe under 100 hours in tail draggers, but most of that was 40 years ago. So I considered myself a beginner. When I bought the plane, I also bought an instructor for a week. And I'm still learning the plane. It's a little squirrely. It's very, very responsive. This short wing gives it a fantastic roll rate, but it's not an aerobatic airplane. It just is a nimble aircraft that is an absolute pleasure to fly.
And if you're curious, no, it's not on the line at his flight school. He says this one is all his. And the big just get bigger. Signature Flight Support announced this week that they have finalized their acquisition of some 14 TAC Air FBOs. Now, most of those locations have already been rebranded as Signature. The new Signature locations include Denver, Dallas, Lexington, Salt Lake City, my hometown, and Knoxville. Signature is the world's largest FBO chain. And we'll be back in a moment.
Your plane is a valuable tool. With the Genesis Aerosystems STEC 3100 digital autopilot, you can rest assured you will arrive safely to your destination. The 3100 is the industry's most advanced autopilot for single and twin-engine aircraft, providing exceptional workload reduction, safety-enhancing capabilities such as straight and level mode and speed protection. To learn more, visit our website today.
Well, welcome back. A California startup is out to compete with Zeppelin in the airship business. H2 Clipper says it's making progress towards a hydrogen and solar-powered airship. They've done some simulated wind testing using computational fluid dynamics. Now, their proposed airship would have a 6,000-mile range at 175 miles per hour. Pretty dang fast for an airship. And it could carry up to 245 tons. An interesting part of this is that the company has a patent on how to deliver hydrogen to airports and other facilities using existing infrastructure. They call it a pipe within a pipe. They say they'll have a full-scale model flying in 2028. I don't think they're using hydrogen for lift. I suspect that'll be helium. Some sad news from the airshow world. Chris Darnell, the longtime airshow entertainer and driver of the Shockwave jet truck, died in a high-speed accident. That was at the Battle Creek Field of Flight Air Show on July 2nd. Now, the custom race truck had 3 J3448 Pratt & Whitney jet engines strapped to it, and it could hit speeds of over 300 miles per hour. Now, as part of the air show, the truck was racing 2 aircraft down the runway. When a tire blew, the truck skidded and rolled, and a fuel tank burst into flames. Our condolences to the Darnell family. Now, the AOPA Air Safety Institute has just released a couple of new safety products. First is an accident case study that follows a Cessna 414 that departs on a VFR flight that turns ugly really fast.
By now, the 414 is in IMC, as well as microburst conditions, turbulence, and rain showers. The aircraft begins a descending right turn, losing altitude rapidly. Witnesses watch the aircraft exit the clouds at a nose-down pitch of about 60 degrees and remain in that attitude for 4 to 5 seconds before beginning what appears to be a dive recovery.
And a new entry in their popular podcast series, There I Was. This one is another VFR and instrument conditions, and you can find both of those on our website. Now, how about a home-built eVTOL? AX by Skyfly. It was unveiled just recently. The 2-seater can operate as a helicopter or a fixed-wing aircraft, or so says the British developer. It will be certified in the UK as a home-built light personal aircraft. And they say there may also be a commercial application for the AX. Since eVTOLs are being developed for the air taxi business, they're going to need a pilot initially because they won't be able to fly autonomously when they first go into service. So they say the AX could be used for training. And speaking of air taxis, the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, has published rules for the operation of air taxis in cities. Now, they say they are the first to issue such regulations in the world. EASA has already developed other regulations related to eVTOL air taxis, including recommendations on the design of vertiports, or the places where the eVTOLs will land. Well, you know, there's nothing quite like flying over the crystal blue waters of the Bahamas in a GA airplane, but access to the Bahamas was limited until just recently. COVID-19 travel restrictions made logistics more challenging, and in 2019, Hurricane Dorian pummeled the area, causing widespread damage. Well, now the Bahamas are ready for you to visit again. Travel restrictions are lifted, and hurricane recovery is well underway. We have a full video about flying to the Bahamas again, and you can find the link up there in the corner of your screen. And finally, with great sadness, we note the passing of longtime AOPA trustee Andy Pugh. Robert Anderson Pugh served some 44 years on the AOPA Board of Trustees, helping guide this organization to becoming the preeminent defender of general aviation that it is today. 4 AOPA presidents counted on Andy for his sage counsel and advice, and Andy truly loved general aviation. He flew his Piper Comanche for 50 years before he donated it to the AOPA Foundation. He died June 25th, just outside of Philadelphia, not far away from Wings Field, where AOPA was founded. Godspeed, Andy Pugh. And that's our show for this week. We'll see you next Friday.